Okay, well, good evening, everyone, and thanks for taking the time to be at this presentation. We have the true honor of having Penny Alexander and Mary Klingenberger as our presenters this evening. They gave a wonderful presentation to some of your peers on Monday morning, and we're looking forward to having their presentation this evening. So I'm going to start with prayer, and then I'll introduce Penny and Mary, and then Mary's going to start with her presentation. So let us pray. Oh God, in the opening words of Scripture, you said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Throughout the Bible, we see time and time again that whatever you say comes to be. You, O Lord, possess perfect integrity. Your word and your action are one and the same. There is nothing incongruent between what you say and what you do. But it is not so with me, O God. The gap between what I advocate and what I actually do is sometimes wide and deep. May my work call me to ever greater integrity, O Lord. Open my eyes and my heart to the opportunities for change and growth that you continually place before me. Amen. Amen. That's actually from a book called Redeeming Administration, 12 Spiritual Habits for Catholic Leaders in Parishes, Schools, Religious Communities, and Other Institutions by Ann Garrido. And we, in the Mesa office, have used many of Ann's reflections and prayer. So it's just it's a really good resource if you're interested in purchasing that. So, all right. Well, let me introduce our speakers. We have Penny Alexander. She is the Chief Human Resource Officer for Franklin Templeton Investments. She oversees global human resources. In this capacity, she's responsible for driving talent strategies for the firm's 9,000 employees in over 30 countries. Penny joined Franklin Templeton Investments as a shareholder services representative. After completing the company's management training program, she held several supervisory and managerial positions. She is a graduate of Mercy High School, Burlingame, and received her bachelor's degree from Santa Clara University. She serves on the Santa Clara University Board of Regents and previously served as chair of the Board of Regents. And she already mentioned that she is the current board chair at Mercy Burlingame. And Mary Klingenberger brings more than 31 years of experience in business and banking to her role as the president of Mother Macaulay Liberal Arts High School in Chicago. Currently, Mary oversees the school's 19 million Future Ready capital campaign, the largest, most ambitious, and most important fundraising effort since the school opened at its current location in 1956. Future Ready aims to fuel the collaborative and project-based learning that is the hallmark of 21st century learners and leaders. To date, Mary has secured over $8 million in pledges, allowing the school to renovate 16 classrooms and the student lounge with the latest in innovation and technology. The school's main entrance and administrative offices have also been reconfigured. And as Mary already mentioned, she's the proud Macaulay graduate from the class of 1975. So Mary, thank you. Penny, thank you. And Mary is going to share her screen and she will get us started.
Great. So again, being part of Mother Macaulay High School in the Chicagoland area, we boast of being the oldest high school that was established in Chicago. Prior to Mother Macaulay, it was St. Xavier Academy, which dates back 175 years. So for Chicago history buffs, even before the Chicago fire. We are very proud of our legacy here. As I mentioned, we have almost 900 girls here on campus and are so proud of all the things that we have done to make sure that we continue in the mercy charism and the legacy of Catherine Macaulay. With that, I'm going to share my screen and jump into the presentation because I know everybody is busy. Can everyone see?
Yes.
Great. So what I'm anxious to visit about is really providing you with some insights on human resource support and some things that we've done here at Mother McCauley. Very often, and as things become more complicated, whether it's COVID or just different HR issues that are coming up throughout the course of your day, very often from a budget standpoint, hiring a full-time HR person is very difficult to absorb within your schools. One thing that we have done at Mother McCauley is worked with a firm out of Chicago called Synergy. And they're really a third-party vendor helping with HR issues, everything from recruiting and onboarding new employees, job descriptions, helping with our employee benefits, our updating our policies and procedures, and most of all, our compliance as state and federal government changes. They are wonderful about making sure that we are staying well within compliance, along with any payroll assistance. So that is something that I just want to share with you. Not only is a third-party system, but we work with a woman now for at least 6 years who's been our contact. She physically sits in an office every Thursday and is available not only to managers and senior leadership, but she's also there to be a sounding board for employees. If they have an HR question, if they didn't think their review went the way they'd like it, if they want to review maternity leave, making sure they're asking the right questions, those kinds of things. Judy is her name, is available. So she really serves everyone at the school, and they're very familiar with her. In fact, we always include her in everything. She tries to come when we were doing staff meetings and those kinds of things in person. She tries to be there, and we schedule those on Thursdays so that people feel comfortable with her and get to know her, as well as, when we were having a holiday party, Judy would be a part of that. So I think it's a great option for you and something that you might want to consider, and certainly reach for, people in the area, reach for your board to see if they've used outsourcing of HR. I think you can learn a lot from people and see what they're doing. As far as the policy manuals and code of conduct, again, Judy is instrumental in really helping us with that as senior leadership. One thing that we have gotten into the practice of, as we come upon things that are policy related, that we think we would want to change for the future, we shoot all that to Judy, and she keeps track of that. So then during the summer, when we start to review things, she can redline it and show us what things we wanted to insert and why. What I feel strongly about is certainly, as we've gotten a handle on more and more online versions where you just sign off on that you've read the manual. I think it's really important not only to spend time with the new employees in orientation, but also highlight for those employees, faculty and staff that are returning. It is critical for everyone to be brought up to date on those changes to avoid conflicts throughout the year. And I know very often people are so quick to want to allow teachers to get to their classrooms and plan for the year that very often we don't take that time. And I can't stress that enough. The other is for you and for your leadership. Beyond using an HR person, it is critical that everyone has either in their cell phone or quick on dialing or emails, key individuals that they can call upon in a time of crisis, whether it's legal counsel or a public relations, social media expert. Those are people that you need to get to know and let them get to know you and the school before that crisis happens. And so that you can pick up the phone and call them and let them know, you need their help. But they are critical people that need to be a part of your team. And again, rely on your board to make sure that these are people they know, they would recommend, and maybe have yourself as the board chair. Maybe you're part of that interviewing process to select those people if they are already not a part of the team. The other important thing is to rely on your vendors. So whether it's your insurance company, we happen to use Blue Cross Blue Shield. We invite them in to present what the updated plan is for employees, but also they come in periodically through the year and obviously when it's not COVID, but they've been doing things online and sending us things to make sure that all of our employees appreciate the other benefits that they might have. And make sure that they know, for example, they made sure when we did start to journey through COVID that there were teledocs and different things available to our employees if they were concerned about anything. The other is true with our 401k. Those folks come in and present to us as far as investment issues and how people can approach investments. And again, they come when we're able to be in person and talk through how to get started in investments and also, if you're thinking about retirement. So those are things that they offer that are free and that our employees have really grown to take advantage of and appreciate. So I encourage you, as you review your plans in the future, ask them what their willingness and availability is. The other thing that we have done now for a number of years is we turn on the 401 contributions for the first payroll check. And this is something that we have over 87% participation in 401ks here at Macaulay, and we do a match as well. So it really helps, especially new employees, that money's already gone and they're getting used to it. So it's a real forced savings for them. So that's something I would recommend. And we have really very few people that have ever opted out of the 401k after they've gotten started. The other thing is, if you're searching for the right people, or if you want to see if your insurance is as competitive as it should be for benefits or whatever, reach for other Mercy schools maybe in your area, or local high schools that can share the recommendations with you so that you feel comfortable and feel like you're truly competitive.
So does anyone have any questions for Mary at this point?
Kim, I do. It's Pam.
Okay.
Mary, obviously your background is so impressive, and obviously business and finance was your background. And when I'm just so jealous isn't the right word, but I'm just so impressed, I guess, with all the things you're offering, because I was a fundraiser in my last career. So like our gala is great and all our fundraising is great, but when it comes to HR, I had no background at all. And I guess I'm wondering, the fact that you were able to, I have so many notes and maybe I will email, but these might help other
Pam,
people.
I'd be happy to.
But one of the things, when you, since you do use vendors instead of an HR full-time person, I'd be interested in the cost, because there's no way you have such an overview of knowledge that I can see exactly why that works for you. But if you're me, who has zero background, zero knowledge, I rely on my HR person probably more than almost anybody in my building because I know nothing. And I guess it would be great to save money, but if I don't know anything, one of the questions I have, like, there's so many things that you're asking her to do for you, because in your brain it makes sense. And I guess I'm just concerned that if I ever attempted to do that, I wouldn't even know what questions to ask. So I just like pick up the phone, Terry, take care of this, Terry, take care of that's my HR person. It just seems like a lot of hours that are probably natural to you, common sense to you, that you can just like let a vendor run with it. But I wanted to get your impression for someone who has zero background in HR and being able to even follow in your footsteps, because it's so impressive. By the way, all your faculty and staff programs, there aren't even things that have ever been brought to my attention. Like I hadn't thought about them. I'm always thinking about other things, but these walking competitions, bringing in somebody for yoga, checking vitamin D, are those things that you just knew because of your background? I feel so like a bad president for not even thinking about those. And also, did you say, I throw in a lot at you, did you say the financial planner charged $100 for each person? They
Yes.
gave them that much time to give and could you tell me what that one meeting was like for them? Because what a gift. Oh my gosh.
Absolutely.
All right, I'll mute. I know I just threw a lot at you.
No, not at all. Pam, I'd be delighted to talk to you. I mean, we rely certainly on the outsourcing of Synergy. So as, you know, this arm of HR and Judy. So she really has a team of people that she can utilize and research. And then what we've tried to do with her help and Synergy's help is build on that with our vendors. So whether it's the investment side or the Blue Cross. And I think you'd be pleasantly surprised how anxious they are to utilize and sell their services. I think you just have to ask and really hear from them. You know, if you have an HR person, I think that's terrific. We just, you know, have had this relationship and it has worked fairly well for our CFO and myself and others. You know, I think you could really look to your vendors to see what they would offer. Just ask the question. And then as far as the financial plan, this is really a service that they have obviously discounted greatly, kind of in lieu of a donation, an ongoing donation to the school. Although they're still very good to us in many ways. What they do is a very bare bones financial plan for our employee and their spouse or partner, and review savings, loans, just, you know, run through and also create it so that it is in a spreadsheet that, you know, that they utilize, and that it's something portable for them to take. But they get a better handle on what they need to do to pay off debt, what they need to do if they wanted to buy a house, whatever their goal is. They put that plan together, and then they check in with them annually on what, you know, how they're doing or new questions. And then it's really provided a referral network for many of their people beyond that.
Day with you, and you know, clearly the goal here is we kind of a tag team. I'll hit some of the high points that Mary addressed, and probably just really more importantly provided just a different perspective sitting as the board chair. I've been involved with the school, you know, for the most part since my graduation. It's my third stint involved at the board level. And I'm also fortunate to be partnering with our new head of school, Natalie Cigrano Bronson, who's on the call as well, which would be great if you have questions, because I'll have to lean into her to answer those. But I'm telling you, when I did the prep call with Mary, I was pretty impressed listening to all the great things that they offer, and was taking copious notes then too. So Mary, pretty impressive. I gotta say, those 16 million steps, that's fantastic. So here's a little bit about us, Mercy Burlingame. We're located about 20 miles south of San Francisco. And as you can see, this is Cole Mansion. And we do offer instruction in a classroom wing of the mansion, but also it's just such a beautiful place for the students to come. And it really is quite a competitive edge for our standpoint, from an attraction standpoint, to have the opportunity. Oh, you could call it. There's the dogs. I apologize. They've been silent. Let me just hope they stop barking. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next slide here. What I thought I'd do is just provide some perspective from a board perspective in terms of ensuring, as stewards of the school, that we remain as competitive as we can. And what we are faced with in the San Francisco Bay Area is, fantastic public schools and great options. And I'm sure many of you, or most of you, have the same issue as well. Fantastic local public schools that are constantly getting bond measures and funding to increase their facilities and build out their offerings. Likewise, we're blessed to have fantastic Catholic schools in our area as well. And on this slide here, we have Reardon High School in San Francisco that just recently announced that they would be going from single gender boys to a co-ed school, which obviously changes the landscape in which we compete. And I thought this was interesting. St. Francis High School, located here on the slide. You might recall reading several years ago about St. Francis High School. One of the gentlemen who was on the venture firm that was bringing Snapchat public was a father of a sophomore at that school, and made arrangements for St. Francis to get into the initial public offering. And they parlayed a $15,000 investment into $34 million after the IPO. And then, of course, using those funds for student scholarships, subsidizing tuition, and then upgrading their facilities. And so it is a very dynamic environment that we're all operating in, and very, very competitive. As many of you know, our sister school, Mercy San Francisco, announced their closure earlier this year and closed their doors in June. So the environment out there that we operate in, that all of us operate in, is increasingly competitive and full of pressure. And that was pre-COVID. And just imagine, the additional pressures that we all face now as a result of that. Having said that, I would like to tee up for when we do open up for questions. I'd like to get some thoughts from this group around how we think COVID has positively impacted our ability to show our value from our educational mission. And I think we've seen that today, as much as the public schools have some great facilities, and they have other constraints as well. And I think that we should at least table some, or provide some time for that conversation. So when you get right down to it, we know we're operating in a competitive environment. All of our schools are faced with these pressures. And so we look at it, I kind of scratched my head and said, well, really, what's our competitive advantage? And we know that without question is our mission. That is at our core. And at the heart of our mission stands our people. Our dedicated faculty and staff bring our mission to life. Our ability to attract and retain high caliber individuals who carry our mission in their hearts and souls is our competitive edge. And in order to provide the right resources to support our people, we've leveraged both an in-source model and an outsourced model to manage our human resources. And to the question earlier, it really depends, I guess, on the circumstances of what is the right model for you. And Mary did a fantastic job talking through their support model from an outsource. I put it, pretty high level. Of course, there's some advantages on either side. On the in-house, I think, Pam, you mentioned it. You just go right, you call in Terry, I think it was, and you say, help, I need help. you have accessibility right there. You have somebody with the ear to the ground, have those relationships on site. They're visible. There's tremendous advantages to having an in-source human resources model. Again, it just depends on your circumstances. Outsource model, as Mary kind of touched on, does provide that third-party objective advice, the expertise, and is able to provide a lot of broad capabilities as well. But I love, Mary, the fact that your person attends like your holiday parties and things like that. That's also a way to create some of the benefits of having that visibility and those relationships. So what I thought I would do, because we have some experience in the outsource model and we've been able to leverage it. Mary did a fantastic job talking about what they're doing, day to day in leveraging that relationship. What I thought I'd do is talk about two recent experiences that we've had from the perspective as a board in using the outsourcing expertise. And one was several years ago, the former head of school, we worked on developing different assessment tools. Obviously, I think Mary talked about being able to tap into the expertise that you have on your board. And so we actually developed a 360 assessment tool for our head of school. And so we put that through and we got, great feedback through that process. And, clearly a number of strengths were identified as we embarked on that 360 process. But there's also a number of improvement areas that we identified as well. And because the board, is managing the relationship and supporting the relationship of the head of school in a somewhat remote environment. We're not present every day. We're not there to provide, ongoing feedback. We thought it would be fantastic to provide some coaching support. And so we used our outsource HR provider to help us assist in the next steps of this 360. And then they recommended an organizational development expert, a coach, to assist us in a robust coaching arrangement. That person was able to work individually with the head of school. We worked on goals with the board in terms of those areas that we wanted to focus on. There was a very close feedback mechanism in place there. For the head of school. They didn't feel like they were going through a root canal. They actually felt like this was a really positive process. And then we even expanded that process to work on team dynamics and team effectiveness for their leadership team. So we felt, as a value add from the board's perspective, we felt that was a great support structure for the head of school. And again, as I said, they really valued that opportunity. When that individual actually, from a succession management standpoint, did a great job, announced that she'd be retiring, within a school year, which was, fantastic, gave the board plenty of opportunity to plan for that succession. And when we were clear that there weren't any, we were still developing internal candidates at that time, that we needed to go out for an external search. We, as a board, evaluated our options, and certainly going out and using a headhunting firm was an option for us, but there was a tremendous cost associated with that. So again, using my background, I suggested that we do kind of a hybrid model, and we tapped into our HR outsource provider, and we developed a process that we would use a contract recruiter to help us recruit for the head of school. And excuse me, we were able to leverage the expertise and resources there. This contract recruiter handled all the posting of the job on the web boards and various publications. They sourced all of the candidates. They screened all of the candidates. They provided access to us for a database, a robust system that allowed us to track the candidates and the status of those candidates. We could put our notes in that database as well. And then once we selected, our final candidates, they did all of the referencing as well. Now, granted, I had to put a little sweat equity into the process, but by leveraging this contract recruiter, that expertise, we were able to not only hire an exceptional new head of school, but we also sourced a prospective principal for a local grammar school, which I was happy to see that he was hired. And we saved tens of thousands of dollars along the way in managing that way. And so for us, we've had the in-source model. There has been benefits to having that model. But for us, with the size of our school, we had to pretty much kind of share that role with the finance person. And so we had somebody that had some strong skills from a human resources standpoint. But we were also looking for, again, some greater expertise and support. I think the most important element of the outsource model, the success or the failure of that model, is going to be the relationship that they have with the head of school, in terms of working in a true partnership there, and knowing, as Mary talked about, really leveraging that relationship and tapping into them. Our business is a people business, so our ability to attract and retain our faculty and staff is so important. So I thought those are just two interesting examples of how you could tap into an outsourcing model in a new and different way. Wanted to just deviate here a little bit, just talk about, from my perspective, the role that the board plays. First and foremost, we're in service for the head of school, the principal, the president, whomever the leadership is there. That's really every day that we remind ourselves that that's what we're there for. You really have to, as a board, discipline yourself. I say not to get too involved there in daily management. It's hard. Somebody like myself, who has long-standing relationships, I know a number of the faculty and staff, and so that when there has been some difficulties and some difficult decisions that have had to been made, especially over the last year, in reaction to COVID, where we've had to cut hours for folks, where we've had to lay people off to manage effectively. I have had people reach out to me, and I've listened. I've been a sounding board to them, but I've said ultimately, the board's not involved in these personnel decisions, and that you need to have this same conversation with your leadership team. And clearly, the head of school knows that I have her back in these decisions and support them. We talk through them. We spend a lot of time assessing the situation, and I think the board is most effective when they're providing great guidance and counsel, and really effectively supporting the decision-making process. And then Mary also mentioned, really important to know when you need to bring in other resources, whether it's outside counsel or others, to support you in those decisions. And then I just thought I would kind of end it on some HR advice. I actually, as was noted, I started at Franklin Templeton Investments right out of Santa Clara. I've been there my life, or I've been there forever. I started on the business side of it, and so I was asked now almost 18 years ago to head HR. And when I was asked to do that, I said, geez, golly gee, I just don't have any experience in human resources. And the CEO at the time said, they have really smart people there. Pardon me again, I'm sorry for the dog. Really smart people there, just run it like a business. And that was really great advice. It's a people business. And so I think, sometimes it gets daunting when you think about it, but it really is a people business. And so the key elements around that is for you to approach it that way, and make sure, just like in any business processes, that you have a solid process in place, that you have fair practices, that you lead with empathy, and you endeavor to always keep the mission there as guideposts for you, that you look at developing authentic and transparent communication, that you have a solid feedback loop as well, and that you have an orientation to action. It's important for the leaders now, especially in the very dynamic environment that we're operating in, to be prepared to make, those hard decisions. And that when you do find yourself in a situation where you have had a pretty difficult human resources issue, I think it's really, really important that you document that process so that you do show, that there was due process in the way that you interacted and addressed that employee's concern. It's really, the right and fair way. So Pam, I know you said something like, oh, you're just, you don't know what to do about HR. I mean, the folks that do HR well, they have the solid kind of rational judgment. They take an empathetic view, but really they have to ensure that they keep the best interest of the institution in mind. The one thing I've learned in the years in HR is that in any human interaction, right, there's always two sides to every story. And it's critical and it's important that you take the time to listen to your employees and their concerns. That's really, really, really important. Now, you may not end up agreeing with them or deciding that that their argument is the way that you're going to go, but that you really have this mindset of again, leading with empathy and the mission in mind. And I think that's really important. An environment where people feel like they've been treated fairly is huge. Without that environment, there is no way that people can come to work and feel as if they can give, the best of themselves every day. If the environment is not as productive as possible, and I think that's really a key element in when you're dealing with anything from an HR perspective. Mary went into some fabulous tools that you could consider to really make that environment one that is so productive and conducive for people to bring their best selves to work every day. And it really depends on your environment, your circumstances as well. So that's kind of a wrap for me, Kim, in terms of my set comments. So what I will do now is I'll stop sharing and we can open it up for any particular questions that people may have.